strategies and concepts discussed are for educational purposes only and do not represent specific investment, tax, or estate planning advice. Investing carries an inherent element of risk, and it is in everyone's best interest to consult a tax, legal, or investment professional. Beth Williams is an investment advisor representative of, and advisory services are offered through USA Financial Securities Corp., a registered investment advisor. Megan Carney, Megan S. Carney PLLC, and Financial Arc Builders are not affiliated with USA Financial Securities Corp.
Welcome to Money Healing. I'm your co-host, Beth Williams.
And I'm your other co-host, Megan Carney. We're here to talk about money and our feelings related to it. I'm a psychologist who specializes in helping sensitive people.
And I'm a financial planner. We both talk to everyday people just like you about these topics.
Everyone's mental health and money health journeys are so different. And as unique as we all are, there are some common themes when it comes to how our emotions impact our money and vice versa.
And it's those common themes that we are going to be discussing together, both the themes themselves and some ideas from us about how to move forward and heal your relationship with money. In the next bit of episodes, Megan and I will be unpacking the various emotions and trauma themes that we've encountered within our observations over the last few years.
We discovered that people fell into one of two camps, one that knows their numbers and where they are financially, and those that don't know their numbers and where they are financially. We recommend that you go through the episodes and listen to the ones you believe may apply to you.
Megan and I are big advocates for getting collaborative support for both your mental health and your financial health journey. As you listen, we recommend that you pay attention to yourself, your reactions emotionally, and reach out to either a mental health professional and or a financial professional to help you deal with your relationship with money.
We'll begin by discussing I don't know my numbers and blank. Is there something that comes after that? Emotional themes we'll discuss within that will be fear, avoidance. What happens if I lose or fail? Shame, guilt, and even domestic violence and abuse, with the overarching theme of trauma.
We will then discuss I know my numbers and blank. Some of the emotional themes that we'll discuss within that will be hopelessness, fear, shame, embarrassment, burnout, never enough, feeling lost, undervalued, worry, and then we'll also deal with the overarching theme of trauma. Welcome back to Money Healing. Today we're going to be tackling the topic of I feel like I know my numbers and where I am financially, but I feel embarrassed or ashamed. When I think of shame and embarrassment, Megan, there was this one quote that I read a while ago, and it said, shame dies when stories are told in safe places. And I feel like oftentimes we don't have a lot of safe places for money conversations.
Absolutely true, right? Money is one of those taboo topics that is even hard to talk about with your therapist sometimes, depending on how comfortable your therapist is with it, right? Money and sex, like, can't talk about this. And these days, politics either, right? Like, it's just taboo. So you're right. We don't have a lot, if any, safe places to be able to talk about it, to get it out in the open so that we don't have to feel as embarrassed or ashamed.
I am curious because, as we've talked about in other episodes, we, at least in our practice, we try to be a safe place for those experiences and for those emotions. But I'm kind of curious to hear from your thoughts. What do you think that people are embarrassed or ashamed about?
Well, if you're a Brene Brown person, you already know this. But when we are embarrassed or ashamed, that's a feeling that tends to come up when we feel like we have somehow failed or fallen short of either our own expectations, the presumed expectations of others, or the actual expectations of others. So, if you're in this space where you're not getting financial help because you are feeling embarrassed or ashamed, I would guess that you probably had an expectation for yourself or feel like society set an expectation for you to have a certain amount of money right now, to have already saved so much towards retirement by now, to be financially stable, to have no debt or only a little bit of debt. And that's just not the reality for a lot of people. And thanks to social media, we only hear the good stuff, right? We only hear the success stories of like, here's how I did this. Here's how I'm 30 and have retired early. And I'm like, you ate rice and beans, and I don't want that life. So we don't feel okay about it because here we are shown all these stories of success and being told what we should be doing to reach these places of success. And now we also don't have these safe places to talk about what's actually happening for many people, to be less embarrassed and be less ashamed about it.
Well, like we've talked about in other episodes, I think maybe sometimes when we're having a financial conversation with someone, even just a family member or a friend, and that family member or friend will give us unsolicited advice or they will try to impart some wisdom, that oftentimes that person is coming from their sense of what they value and what they feel is the right thing to do and what their experience has been, and that may or may not be relevant to your individual situation. So letting those external, voices, I guess, come in and try to tell you, no, that's not what you should be doing, or you should be doing it this other way is probably not fair and probably not the place that we need to get advice.
Probably not. I mean, why would we take advice from somebody whose values don't align with ours, right? I'm not trying to retire early because I don't want to be scrimping and saving constantly and depriving myself when I actually like what I do. I don't mind having to work. I enjoy getting to see clients.
Yeah, and we'll talk about what retirement means in this next episode, and I'm really excited to tackle that too, because it's an individual choice, it's an individual perspective, and I think that that's a very wise statement. So if we're feeling ashamed or we're feeling embarrassed, how do you think we're supposed to address those? What do you think we should do?
Mhm. Well, first, I want to make a comment for all the perfectionists out there. So, if you're a perfectionist and you're listening right now, hear this. When perfectionism is driving for you, and oftentimes that is driving in terms of finances, right? Like we have this number that we're trying to hit, or this certain mark in our retirement fund, or whatever, and we're trying to like perfectly get that, or even more beyond it. And when perfectionism is driving, shame is riding shotgun. So if you think you're not ashamed, but you are in this perfectionist, like I have to have absolutely zero debt. I have to have, $100,000 saved. It has to be perfect. I have to be like following all the rules that everyone's telling me to a T. If it's not obvious by now, I am a Brene Brown person. This is a Brene Brown quote. Shame's riding shotgun. Shame is there. So just acknowledge it, like that's a feeling that's there. And that is okay that it's there. Now we just get to like listen to why that is, right? And start to deal with it. And I've found that the way to deal with these feelings is to find or even create that little community so that you can actually talk about both like the practical reality that comes up with finances and the emotional stuff that goes with it. That's the way that I've gotten through a lot of these things. And that honestly, like, this is a lifelong journey. If you stop working with your feelings, then your feelings just start driving the bus. And we don't necessarily always want embarrassment or shame or anger or whatever feeling it might be to be driving the bus. We want to use that as just data, just information. It's telling us something. So maybe embarrassment or shame or trying to tell you, like, these are things that really matter to you. Or maybe they're telling you these are things that matter to other people and you care about how other people see you. You can only figure that out for yourself. I can make space for you, or other people can make space for you to get into those feelings, but you're the one who is going to know what that really is for you, why you're feeling the way that you're feeling, once you have a safe place to process it. And there are options, right? There's coaching groups. There are groups like for specific subsets of people. I did one specifically for therapists. And there are wonderful friends. Miss Beth, my financial planner, who was first a great friend who I got to have these conversations with. So, because we know that financial people are actually people who are comfortable talking about money, where it's not a taboo topic, I would say, as long as that financial person feels safe to you, and we've got other episodes on like finding the right financial person for you, as long as that person feels safe, don't wait for the embarrassment and shame to go away, because if you do that, there's a good chance you're never going to find the people that you feel comfortable talking about money with. And you're never going to get help with that financial outlook for yourself. You're never going to have the embarrassment or the shame decrease or even completely go away if you don't have that safe place to talk about it. How do you even find that space or those people to have these conversations with? And for me, I know it happens slowly and by chance. And then I personally have just slowly collected my people over time. And we're people that like to think deeply, that get into deep topics and heavy topics. And money is oftentimes one of those deep and heavy topics. So I've surrounded myself with some people who are willing to go there, and I've slowly learned that they're willing to go there so that we can have those conversations, like over dinner even, which has led to creating this podcast and then people getting even more comfortable talking with me about money and then bringing it up, right? Like if we talk about it, the people who are going to want to have those conversations are going to start talking to you about it. The other thing we can do is Google. We can Google. There's starting to be this field of financial therapy. There's not a whole lot out there about it yet, but it's starting to be a thing. Coaches who work with this. If you do any sort of like business coaching as an entrepreneur with somebody who works on like fee setting and mindset, you're probably going to be working on some of these things. If you're not, please find a different coach for that because you can't do the practical without the personal when it comes to that sort of thing. So we have options, and part of that option is just being ourselves and looking for what we need and being comfortable putting ourselves out there. Beth, you had also asked at some point, like, where does the embarrassment or the shame come from? And you might feel like this isn't my own, this isn't my story. And it might not be your personal story, but if you're still feeling those things, then it would be important to consider what your own money story is. Beth and I started off this podcast with our own money stories. And your money stories go back to your own childhood before you were even thinking about money, and the ways that your parents had conversations about money, or even just offhand statements about money that could be influencing you today, even though it felt like or seemed like nothing back then. And depending on your age, the age of your parents, the age of their parents, like the Great Depression might have been in there influencing how generations of your family now have viewed money, or the need to hold on to money or stash it, or to have enough and what enough looks like. So there are all sorts of reasons why being embarrassed or ashamed could come up. Maybe in the last financial crash, you or your parents or someone close to you that you really cared about, like, lost everything. And there could be a lot of secondhand embarrassment or shame related to that. So even if it doesn't feel like it's directly yours, that stuff ripples out, just like trauma ripples out. So there still might be things for you to work on, even if they don't feel like they are exactly yours.
I think back on what you've said so often in our previous episodes about shoulds, paying attention to those shoulds. And when you have an emotional reaction that comes up on saying, I should be having this amount, or I should be feeling this way, or I should not be thinking this, that's a really good key into there's something there that we need to unpack. And I think that that's very wise. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Money Healing. In this next episode, we're going to be continuing with this theme of I feel like I know my numbers, but I don't get financial help. And this next episode, we'll be talking about I don't know if or when I can retire. And we'll see you there.